breaking news on former NFL star Aaron Hernandez.
Found dead in his prison cell overnight. Apparently he himself.
It's an unbelievable tale of horror and sadness.
Basically saying my life in my hands and whatever I want my life to be, it's up to me to make it out that way.
Why would a football player, a highly successful, affluent, popular football player, be a murderer?
You're not going to make me believe that he's a monster because you use those type of words.
One of the dumbest criminals in the century.
We hadn't seen such a high-profile murder case involving an athlete.
I and other members of the organization were shocked and disappointed.
Author James Patterson wrote a book about Aaron Hernandez, and he described him as an all-pro football player who operated like a serial killer.
Ini bukanlah berita biasa, namun benar-benar kisah nyata dari seorang pemuda tampan, berbakat luar biasa, atlet bintang yang sedang bersinar dengan nilai kontraknya sebesar 40 juta dolar dan dikagumi semua orang, namun berakhir tragis setelah ia didakwa atas pembunuhan dan disebut sebagai pembunuh berantai sekaligus penjahat paling bodoh abad ini. Ikutilah kisah nyata ini yang akan kita kupas lebih dalam lagi dalam tayangan dokumenter khas K-Channel. Selengkapnya sesaat lagi hanya di YouTube K-Channel, membuka jendela dunia. Aaron Hernandez adalah atlet bintang yang sedang bersinar, yang menjadi impian semua orang di Amerika. Ia juga dianggap sebagai anak ajaib dari jalanan yang dianugerahi Tuhan bakat yang luar biasa untuk sepak bola Amerika atau rugby, yang merupakan olahraga paling populer nomor 1 di Amerika. Aaron juga menjadi pemain termuda dalam sejarah NFL atau National Football League, yakni Liga Sepak Bola Profesional Amerika Serikat yang paling bergengsi dan populer di dunia. Pada tahun 2012, ia tampil memukau di laga Super Bowl, yakni pertandingan final Liga Nasional, di mana acara Super Bowl ini merupakan acara bergengsi yang paling banyak ditonton di Amerika Serikat, melampaui acara Oscar dan Piala Dunia Sepak Bola. Hingga dijadikan hari libur yang tidak resmi setiap pertandingan Super Bowl diselenggarakan.
I felt like I deserved to be a higher draft pick, but regardless, it's still accomplishing a dream coming to play in the NFL.
Right. I mean, people think of him as an amazing athlete. He was an extremely good student. He was known for his compassion. He was known for his kindness. He was known for a lot of things.
Tetapi pada tanggal 19 April 2017, pada pukul 3 dini hari, saat menjalani hukumannya, Aaron ditemukan tewas di sel penjaranya dalam keadaan tubuhnya yang tidak berbusana. Ia tewas di usianya yang baru berusia 27 tahun.
Breaking news on former NFL star Aaron Hernandez.
Found dead in his prison cell overnight. Apparently he himself.
The shocking news comes out that Aaron Hernandez has killed himself in his cell.
I was just like, what the hell? I couldn't believe it.
I was shocked. like everybody else, to have him, the suicide happen so soon. He tied a bedsheet around his neck that he'd also tied around the window, and he essentially lowered himself to the floor until the sheet caught and asphyxiated. It's a terrible way to die, and to kill yourself that way, you have to want to die.
Lalu, apa yang membuatnya mengakhiri hidupnya?
How did this happen? How did they allow this to happen in the prison? Why wasn't he on a stricter watch? And the whole thing is just tragic.
This is the police summary on Aaron Hernandez's death. Along with numerous court documents, it provides details of his last days, hours, and minutes. It can help me answer the big question as to what was going on that drove him to take the life of others and ultimately his own.
Ahli patologi forensik terkenal di dunia, Dr. Michael Hunter, telah menghabiskan waktu 20 tahun berkolaborasi erat dengan penegak hukum untuk menyelidiki berbagai macam kasus, termasuk banyak kasus pembunuhan dan bunuh diri.
According to friends, Aaron seemed remarkably comfortable in jail. So to explain why Aaron killed himself, I need to understand how he became a convicted killer.
Hi, I'm Vinko Poser from Perth, Western Australia. You are watching the famous documentary K Channel from Indonesia.
Aaron Joseph Hernandez lahir di Bristol, Connecticut, Amerika Serikat pada 6 November 1989. Ia adalah putra kedua. Kakak laki-lakinya bernama Dennis Jonathan Jr. yang dikenal sebagai DJ. Sang ibu, Terry Valentine Hernandez, adalah keturunan Italia, sementara sang ayah, Dennis Hernandez, adalah keturunan Puerto Rico. Karena pertengkaran yang sering terjadi, akhirnya orang tua Aaron bercerai pada tahun 1991. Sang ayah, pamannya, serta Aaron dan kakaknya adalah orang-orang dengan talenta luar biasa terhadap olahraga sepak bola Amerika, atau sering kita sebut sebagai rugby.
His father was a legend as far as Connecticut athletics and UConn athletics, and he was slated to go. He actually accepted a scholarship to go to UConn, following his brother's and father's footsteps.
His father was extremely regimented, an amazing athlete, very strict. And, you know, when you looked at the upbringing of Aaron and his family, Aaron was an extremely good student. Right? I mean, people think of him as an amazing athlete. He was an extremely good student. He was known for his compassion. He was known for his kindness. He was known for a lot of things. But I also think that when you grow up with a strict father who had celebrity status, it's an awful lot of pressure for a kid, no matter how great an athlete he was.
Aaron was our golden boy. He had the family traits. His father and his uncle were standout athletes.
Sang ayah melihat bakat dua anak laki-lakinya yang berpotensi besar untuk bisa bermain sebagai pemain sepak bola profesional, hingga sang ayah mendorong dua putranya untuk menekuni dan berlatih keras menjadi yang terbaik, khususnya pada putra bungsunya, Aaron, yang bakat dan kemampuannya sangat menonjol. Sang ayah sangat tegas dan berdisiplin ketat dalam melatih Aaron.
He was always a great athlete. I mean, from 10 years old, everyone in the area knew that he would be something special. But he never carried himself in that way. He always carried himself just as one of the guys.
Football became part of his life very early, and his father was a high school football star who was determined that his boys would also play football. So he very early pushed them both into the sport.
Bristol, Connecticut, it has its bad areas, but for the most part, it's a place where you can raise a family and you don't have to worry too much about gang violence and things like that.
Aaron was our golden boy. He had the family traits. His father and his uncle were standout athletes.
Aaron's father really invoked some pretty strict disciplines around sports. There were things like having to shoot 100 baskets before he could go hang out with his friends. that kept him on a regimen. There were expectations. There was accountability. And his father was unyielding about that.
He used to talk about his dad a lot. He loved his dad. He definitely looked up to him. Big role model.
This teacher that taught Aaron said, I have never, in all my years of teaching, ever seen a relationship between a father and son that was as close as Aaron and Dennis, his father.
A closeness with them that I had never seen before. There was something about Dennis and Aaron, the way they intertwined. It was magic in my eyes.
Hari ini, Aaron Hernandez yang berusia 16 tahun berada di sekolahnya di Bristol High School, Connecticut. Dan pada hari ini, Aaron menerima kabar mengejutkan yang akan mengubah hidupnya. 2 hari sebelumnya, ayah Aaron memeriksakan dirinya ke rumah sakit untuk operasi hernia rutin. Tetapi dia mengalami infeksi yang tidak dapat diobati oleh dokter. Dan akhirnya pada hari ini, sang ayah meninggal di usia 49 tahun.
It's sad. He couldn't stop the tears. Felt uncomfortable just to see him so hurt. I felt bad for him.
Aaron was plunged into grief, and he became despondent. This is the most pivotal moment in Aaron's life.
Aaron benar-benar merasa hancur. Ia sungguh terjatuh dalam kesedihan dan rasa sakit yang mendalam, kehilangan sang ayah yang menjadi panutannya, temannya, pelatihnya, sosok yang menjadi segalanya bagi Aaron. Dan Aaron tidak bisa lagi berharap untuk berbagi kesedihannya dengan sang ibu. Ia tidak lagi bisa merasakan kenyamanan dengan ibunya, karena hubungan antara ibu dan anak ini telah putus setelah Aaron mengetahui perselingkuhan ibunya dengan laki-laki lain di belakang ayahnya. Aaron benar-benar berjuang sendiri menghadapi duka atas kehilangan ayahnya. Ia bahkan tidak pergi ke makam ayahnya karena ia merasa tak sanggup menghadapi kenyataan bahwa ia telah kehilangan ayahnya.
Aaron at that moment loses all sense of direction. Aaron was developing an identity based on these shared beliefs and values with his father, and all of a sudden he is gone.
What his friend said was that Aaron Hernandez went inside himself. He just changed.
You know, he comes from a whole family with like strong, athletic boys. There's a real hypermasculinity there. And when you have that, your go-to emotion when you're upset is not sadness, it's anger. So it's easier to punch a wall when I'm upset than to cry and say I feel awful and I can't cope.
Aaron kini telah kehilangan arah. Tanpa ada lagi dukungan dari orang tuanya, membuat Aaron benar-benar masuk dalam lingkaran sosial barunya yang memberikan pengaruh buruk padanya. Dan sebagian besar dari teman-teman barunya itu memiliki catatan kriminal. Tetapi ini bukanlah satu-satunya perubahan dalam hidup Aaron.
At 16 years old, losing your father, it would be very easy to fall into the lifestyle of following people that don't help you make the best choices.
When you lose that role model and your life has been about regimentation and you've been expected to live up to something, you become rudderless.
Friends would say that after his father died, something changed in Aaron Hernandez.
The switch just went off where everything that he was about, he became the opposite.
If the natural grieving process is somehow derailed, there's the real danger of prolonged grief disorder, which can have long-term consequences on mental health, including anxiety disorder, depression, and suicidal impulses. I can't discount this as a factor in his death.
Setelah kematian ayahnya, di usianya yang baru 16 tahun itu, Aaron mulai menghisap marijuana, di mana asapnya yang masuk ke dalam aliran darah melalui paru-paru memicu reseptor di otak yang dapat meningkatkan suasana hati. Tetapi Aaron masih terus menggeluti olahraga yang sangat dicintainya. Ia tetap berlatih keras dan berhasil menunjukkan penampilan terbaik untuk timnya di lapangan. Bob Montgomery, seorang wartawan olahraga untuk Bristol Press, mengatakan bahwa keluarga Aaron, di antaranya sang ayah, pamannya, kakaknya, dan Aaron adalah pahlawan olahraga karena bakat mereka yang luar biasa. Namun Aaron, dia bergelut di 2 track. Selain sepak bola, ia juga bermain basket dengan penampilan paling memukau di antara pemain basket lainnya saat di lapangan.
He was described in any sport he played as a man playing with children.
We were like the same height, but he was just more athletic, obviously. And I mean, he practiced like all the time.
Dan pada saat ini, Aaron bertemu dengan seorang gadis cantik bernama Sienna Jenkins. Mereka berdua adalah siswa dan siswi yang populer di SMA. Dan mereka menjadi sepasang kekasih sejak saat itu. Aaron lulus 1 tahun lebih awal dari teman-temannya di SMA. Dan setelah ayahnya meninggal, Aaron berubah pikiran tentang di mana dia akan bermain sepak bola di perguruan tinggi. Aaron tidak mengikuti saran ayahnya untuk masuk ke perguruan tinggi UConn dan bergabung dengan kakaknya yang telah lebih dulu berada di sana. Tetapi dia memilih Universitas Florida dan bergabung dengan tim sepak bolanya, Gators.
He graduates high school early. He's actually set to go to UConn. That's really almost like becoming a pro athlete at 17 years old.
When I look back into his high school years, I can see he got good grades and even made the honor roll. Also, I can see no evidence of any criminal record, so I'm wondering where it all started to go wrong.
Dan kini, Aaron tinggal 1000 miles jauhnya dari rumah, tanpa pengawasan orang dewasa. Saat di Florida, Aaron mulai mentato tubuhnya. Ia membuat tato di lehernya, di tangannya, di dadanya. Tubuhnya kini sudah bagaikan kanvas tato.
What's the meaning on your farm? If it is to be, it is up to me. The quote my father always used to give me, if it is to be, it is up to me. Basically saying, whatever I want my life to be, it's up to me to make it out that way.
I think it shows, you know, how little respect he had for himself, how little of a self-image that he had, that he just wanted to cover himself with these tattoos and embrace, you know, these gangster and, you know, violent images.
Dan pada saat ini pula, Aaron mulai kecanduan menghisap lintingan daun-daun itu yang selalu ia dapatkan dari temannya Alexander Bradley. Dan menurut Alexander Bradley, Aaron menghisapnya cukup banyak dalam sehari dan menghabiskan $1.500 setiap minggunya hanya untuk itu.
Aaron Hernandez had another interest.
Sources tell CNN Aaron Hernandez also smoked a lot of pot, one calling it a boatload.
Dan ternyata Aaron tidak hanya mengkonsumsi itu saja, tetapi juga ia mengkonsumsi lainnya, yakni PCP alias angel dust. Barang haram ini bekerja dengan memblokir aksi reseptor NMDA, bahan kimia yang terkait dengan perkembangan neurologi, yakni terkait sistem saraf manusia, termasuk struktur, fungsi, dan gangguan saraf.
PCP will have likely increased his memory problems, trouble with concentration and perception, and difficulty with judgment.
Combination of on the long-term use of the drug and the amount of drug could cause someone to become violent, could cause someone to become very paranoid, could cause someone to overreact to a situation, appear to be more impulsive.
Pada suatu malam, Aaron menghadapi sekelompok pemuda yang dia yakini telah mencuri kalung rantai dari sesama pemain sepak bola. Aaron tampak sangat marah. Namun mantan pemain Gator Florida, Reggie Nelson, yang bersama Aaron saat itu, mencoba melerainya. Karena ia mengenal salah satu dari kelompok pemuda itu. Sepertinya semua sudah beres. Mereka semua sama-sama meninggalkan tempat itu. Tapi beberapa menit kemudian terjadi kekacauan. 3 pemuda itu melaporkan pada polisi bahwa mereka telah diserang oleh seorang pria Hispanik atau Hawaii dengan banyak tato. Spekulasinya adalah Aaron Hernandez menembakkan peluru ke mobil dari semi pistol otomatis hingga 2 orang terkena luka tembakan. Namun mereka selamat. Tetapi dalam kasus ini, Aaron tidak pernah jadi tersangka karena polisi tidak bisa secara positif menghubungkannya dengan Aaron. Kasus ini pun menjadi hilang. Pelatih sepak bolanya melihat bakat Aaron yang luar biasa. Namun ia membutuhkan pengaruh yang baik dalam hidupnya. Lalu sang pelatih memasangkannya dengan quarterback tim yang dikenal bergaya hidup sehat dan berperilaku baik, yakni Tim Tebow, dengan harapan agar Aaron dapat berubah menjadi lebih baik. Tetapi sayangnya, bahkan Tim Tebow pun tidak bisa merubah Aaron.
At the University of Florida, Aaron Hernandez's coach decided that he needed a good influence on his life. So he paired him up with the clean-cut quarterback of the team, Tim Tebow. The whole idea was that Tebow was going to help keep him out of trouble, but unfortunately, even Tim Tebow couldn't do that.
Di suatu malam, di restoran yang sangat terkenal, Swamped, Aaron sedang bersama Tim Tebow. Mereka memesan beberapa minuman, lalu sang manajer memberikan tagihan minuman yang tidak dipesan oleh Aaron dan temannya. Tetapi Aaron bereaksi yang sungguh di luar dugaan.
There's an argument between Aaron Hernandez and the manager over a bill. Tim Tebow tries to calm things down and settle the check, but according to this police report, it all ends with Aaron Hernandez sucker manager on the left side of his head, bursting an eardrum.
That was how Aaron Hernandez dealt with everything. Violently, suddenly, without warning, and without explanation.
Landed right on the side of his head, busted his eardrum, severely impacted the man's hearing, and was never charged again.
A settlement was reached between the university and the manager who Aaron had punched, but Aaron never faced any charges.
Walau Aaron berada di Florida, tetapi hubungan percintaannya dengan sang pacar tetap berlanjut dan semakin serius. Begitupun dengan karir sepak bolanya yang sudah ia rintis. Ia semakin serius dengan sepak bolanya untuk tim Gators selama beberapa musim. Hingga seorang pemandu bakat mengevaluasi Aaron untuk rancangan NFL yang akan datang. Dan perilaku Aaron menjadi pembahasan. Kemudian Liga bergengsi NFL melakukan profil psikologis tentang kondisi mental Aaron. Karena banyak tim yang memperhatikannya saat berada di lapangan. Sebab pengendalian diri di lapangan merupakan satu tanggung jawab yang diperlukan dalam pertandingan dan bukan hanya sekedar aset. The Wall Street Journal melaporkan bahwa dari hasil tersebut, Aaron mendapat nilai 1 dari 10 dalam ujian kedewasaan sosialnya. Dan dalam laporan hasil tersebut juga terdapat peringatan mengenai Aaron yang dianggap memiliki harga diri cukup rendah secara emosional dan suasana hati yang tidak dapat diprediksi. Karena hal itulah, banyak tim yang tertarik pada Aaron lalu mengurungkan niatnya untuk merekrut Aaron bergabung dengan tim mereka sebelum draft NFL dimulai. Dan itu mempengaruhi karir sepak bola Aaron yang seharusnya dengan bakatnya yang luar biasa, ia menjadi pilihan putaran pertama di draft 2010. Tetapi sebaliknya, ia terdegradasi ke putaran keempat. Kemudian Aaron menulis surat pada tim New England Patriots bahwa ia mengakui kesalahan masa lalunya dan menawarkan untuk menjalani tes narkoba. Jika ia direkrut, ia berjanji akan bersikap baik dan menjadi pemain yang baik untuk tim. Dan jika gagal, sebagian bonus dari penandatanganan bisa ditarik kembali
teams spend a lot of time on background checks, hiring private investigators to be sure that this is somebody who will enter the NFL and stay out of trouble.
I felt like I deserved to be a higher draft pick, but regardless, it's still accomplishing a dream coming to play in the NFL.
Aaron was undoubtedly a supreme talent, but his anger was likely to have been cause for concern.
He said, look, I know that I have some issues with marijuana and some other behavioral issues. I promise you that I will never fail a test and I will behave if you draft me. If I fail a test, you can take back some of my signing bonus. If you take a gamble on me, it will pay off and I will be a good player for you. And when the 4th round came around, the Patriots finally decided that the risk was worth the reward. And they took a gamble on Hernandez with the 113th draft pick.
Dan pada akhirnya, tim New England Patriots merekrut Aaron Hernandez bergabung di timnya. Pada tahun ini, Aaron Hernandez resmi bergabung sebagai pemain di tim New England Patriots. Dan ia memulai musim sebagai pemain termuda di liga paling bergengsi NFL. Dan dengan begitu cepat, Aaron menjadi salah satu pemain terbaik di liga. Setelah Aaron bermain untuk New England Patriots, pacar Aaron kini tinggal bersama Aaron. Namun mereka kerap berdebat dan terkadang mereka bertengkar dengan nada keras, sehingga para tetangga mengeluh tentang kebisingannya dan melaporkannya pada polisi.
Is everything okay?
We just had a little argument. Everything's okay here.
Ma'am, is that true?
I said we're okay.
Sir, I wasn't asking you, I was asking her. Ma'am, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Di lapangan sepak bola, Aaron mampu menunjukkan penampilan yang luar biasa. Hingga pelatih New England Patriots memainkan Aaron dalam semua jenis situasi yang berbeda dan mempercayakannya untuk bermain di beberapa posisi sebagai pemain belakang yang ketat.
Aaron Hernandez played the most difficult position other than quarterback, tight end.
It's an integral position to the game for a number of reasons because in every play you're either running or you're passing.
Real versatility is required at that position, and Aaron Hernandez had it down.
Aaron Hernandez understood the game and applied his athleticism to the game in a way that very few players do.
Hingga tak heran, ia menjadi pemain terbaik 3 teratas di liga yang membawanya untuk tampil di Super Bowl. Ia menjadi atlet bintang baru yang bersinar dan dikagumi semua orang.
He was already possibly top 3 tight ends in the league, playing wide receiver, tight end, runner back. There was nobody who did that. Nobody.
He was adored. He was this hard-scrabble kid from Bristol, Connecticut that everybody could admire. He was just such a hard worker.
Hasil dari kerja kerasnya ini, Aaron kini mendapatkan perpanjangan kontrak dan tidak main-main. Nilai kontraknya sebesar $40 juta dan uang tersebut ia segera membeli sebuah rumah besar yang mewah di kawasan elit di daerah Boston.
In 2012, Aaron accepted a 5-year, $40 million contract that also included a $12.5 million signing bonus.
Dan pada saat ini, Aaron dan sang pacar resmi bertunangan, bertepatan dengan hari-hari menjelang kelahiran bayi perempuan mereka. Aaron kini sungguh merasakan kebahagiaan yang sempurna. Sejak Aaron menjadi pemain tim New England Patriots untuk liga profesional, gaya hidupnya semakin berubah. Ia senang berpesta pora dan sering mengundang teman-temannya untuk berpesta di rumahnya, menikmati minuman, disertai pesta barang-barang haram. Namun pada malam ini, Aaron dan temannya, Alexander Bradley.
And Alexander Bradley was his regular. Alexander Bradley was his bodyguard, his buddy.
Tertangkap kamera CCTV masuk ke klub malam di Boston bernama Cure Lounge. Mereka bersenang-senang sambil menikmati alunan musik dan minuman koktailnya. Namun kemudian, insiden kecil terjadi. Saat Aaron sedang berjoget di lantai dansa, secara tidak sengaja, seorang pengunjung bernama Daniel menabraknya hingga menumpahkan minuman Aaron. Merasa tidak dihargai, amarah Aaron pun seketika itu memuncak. Namun Alexander berusaha melerainya dan membujuk Aaron untuk meninggalkan klub malam tersebut. Tetapi ketika Daniel dan temannya Safiro pulang dari klub Cute Lounge, secara kebetulan mereka bertemu dengan Aaron di lampu merah. Dan kejadian tak terduga pun terjadi yang mengakibatkan Daniel dan Safiro tewas seketika dalam mobilnya.
Just run-of-the-mill guys from Dorchester, pretty humble people. They just went to a club, that's it. You know, they had the bad luck of running into Aaron Hernandez.
Again, this was over a spilled drink in a club, supposedly. So it just shows how unstable that Aaron Hernandez was.
And if he ever thought he was being disrespected, his temper would explode. And in this case, it's alleged that he took his anger to extreme levels.
Every man feels they should get respected. He definitely had that state of mind, though, that, you know, I whip your ass if you tried me.
I think he embraced the unsavory characters from his past. He sought them out, and that's what he wanted. So I don't think Aaron Hernandez was a victim here. I think he sought out the gangster lifestyle.
Kendaraan yang digunakan Aaron dan Alexander malam itu, ia sembunyikan di dalam garasi rumah pamannya dan tetap tersembunyi dalam garasi itu selama hampir 1 tahun. Sementara polisi tidak tahu apa yang sebenarnya terjadi pada kedua pria ini karena tidak ada pertengkaran dalam klub malam dan saksi-saksi tidak dapat menunjukkan apapun yang menyebabkan pembunuhan ini. Setelah malam penembakan ganda itu, malam berikutnya, Aaron dan Alexander serta 2 teman lainnya mengunjungi klub malam penari tanpa busana bernama Tootsie Cabaret di Miami dan menghabiskan $10,000. Kemudian ketika mereka berempat pulang, Aaron tiba-tiba menghentikan mobilnya, lalu melepaskan peluru ke arah wajah temannya, Alexander Bradley. Kemudian membuang tubuhnya di pinggir jalan. Walau Alexander selamat dari penembakan tersebut, tetapi ia terluka parah dan kehilangan mata kanannya. Tetapi Alexander Bradley tidak mengajukan tuntutan pada Aaron atas kejadian tersebut.
His friend Alex Bradley in the face and then dumped his body on the side of the road. This is the type of person we're dealing with in Aaron Hernandez. This is someone, you know, you only find a character like this in the movies.
Alexander Bradley survived, but he refused to tell the cops who had shot him. He would later say that he was planning his own revenge.
Walau pelatihnya tidak tahu bahwa Aaron selalu membawa senjata sepanjang waktu dan menggunakan barang-barang haram. Tetapi menurut laporan majalah The Rolling Stones, pelatihnya memanggil Aaron untuk memberikan nasihat agar ia menata hidupnya dengan baik, menjauhi segala masalah di luar lapangan, dan memberikan ultimatum. Jika ia tidak segera menyelesaikan masalahnya di luar, maka ia akan segera diganti.
They kind of ran wild in that program. They had 31 arrests of players in just 6 years. When you want to win national championships, you take some risks on some guys with some behavioral issues.
Hernandez was performing really well on the field, but he was failing to stay out of trouble off the field.
Meskipun Aaron telah berjanji akan mengubah hidupnya, tetapi Aaron terus mengadakan pesta keras di rumahnya, di ruang bawah tanah. Dan dalam pesta kali ini, Aaron bertemu dengan Odin Lloyd. Ia adalah pacar adik tunangannya. Odin Lloyd adalah pemain sepak bola di tim semi-pro lokal yang juga merupakan pemain yang sangat bagus. Karena sama-sama menggeluti sepak bola, akhirnya mereka menjalin persahabatan, apalagi mereka berdua juga sama-sama suka mengkonsumsi barang-barang haram. Hubungan pertemanan Aaron dan Odin semakin dekat. Mereka sering berjalan bersama seperti malam ini. Mereka mengunjungi tempat hiburan malam di Boston bernama Club Rumor.
Oh, he said he was at the club with Mr. Hernandez, and they were partying, and he had a good time, and that Mr. Hernandez spent a good amount of money.
Secara kebetulan, Odin bertemu dengan temannya, lalu ia menghampirinya untuk menyapa. Tetapi tampaknya, baik Aaron maupun teman Odin, mereka saling tidak menyukai.
Whoever these men were, they didn't like Aaron Hernandez, and he didn't like them.
Aaron mengatakan pada Odin bahwa ia telah membiarkan temannya tidak menghormatinya. Kemudian Odin mencoba menenangkan Aaron dan membujuknya untuk segera pergi dari tempat hiburan tersebut. Dua hari kemudian setelah Aaron dan Odin pergi ke tempat hiburan, malam ini Aaron mengirim SMS pada Odin, memberitahunya bahwa dia akan ke rumah Odin untuk menjemputnya. Aaron pergi menjemput Odin memakai mobil Nissan Altima berwarna silver pada pukul 2 dini hari bersama dua temannya, Carlos Ortiz dan Ernest Walls. Mereka berdua adalah teman-teman Aaron dari kampung halamannya yang sama, Bristol, Connecticut. Dan mereka berdua memiliki catatan kriminal. Di dalam mobil, Odin merasakan ada sesuatu yang janggal pada Aaron, hingga ia mengirimkan SMS pada adiknya, Shakila, pada pukul 3 pagi. Untuk memberitahunya bahwa ia sedang bersama pemain NFL, yakni Aaron Hernandez. Rupanya firasat Odin Lloyd benar adanya. Karena ketika Aaron menghentikan mobilnya di lahan kosong, sebuah kawasan industri di Attleboro Utara yang berjarak hanya 1 mile dari rumah Aaron, sesuatu yang sangat buruk menimpa Odin.
Oh, how about you and I have a talk?
Dalam rekaman CCTV, sebelum Odin Lloyd tewas, tampak Aaron dan teman-temannya berada di pom bensin untuk mengisi bensin. Di sini, Aaron terlihat sedang berjoget cukup lama di depan lampu pom bensin karena pengaruh angel dust. Sehingga petugas pom bensin merasa kesal dan mematikan lampu untuk mengusir mereka segera pergi. Angel dust ini tentunya memiliki efek samping berbahaya, membuat si pengguna merasa agresif atau cemas yang berlebihan. Efeknya akan lebih berbahaya jika dicampur dengan minuman beralkohol.
PCP doesn't just fuel aggression, it can produce effects similar to those suffering from schizophrenia, including visual hallucinations, illogical thought patterns, and paranoid delusions.
When people feel paranoid, there's an impending sense of doom. You feel like there's no one that you can trust. In Alexander Bradley's words, Aaron thought everybody was a detective.
Setelah malam eksekusi itu, Aaron, Carlos, dan Ernest kembali ke rumah Aaron yang tertangkap oleh kamera CCTV-nya, yang selanjutnya akan dinonaktifkan agar tidak memperlihatkan gerakan mereka selanjutnya. Ketika mereka masuk ke dalam rumah, dalam kamera CCTV, Aaron tampak seperti memegang sebuah pistol yang diyakini polisi bahwa itu adalah pistol kaliber 45 sebagai senjata yang digunakan untuk mengakhiri hidup Odin Lloyd. Lalu, pada pagi harinya, sekitar pukul 6, Aaron dan dua temannya muncul di tempat penyewaan mobil untuk mengembalikan mobil Nissan Altima yang telah disewanya. Kemudian Aaron segera menelpon tunangannya untuk memintanya membuang sebuah kotak dus yang berada di ruang bawah tanah.
One of the dumbest criminals of the century here just led the prosecutors right to his front door.
The chain of events was right there on camera. It was very compelling proof of foul play, of murder.
Keesokan harinya, pada pukul 5 sore, jasad Odin Lloyd ditemukan oleh seorang remaja yang sedang berjogging. Polisi yang menyelidiki pembunuhan Odin Lloyd menemukan banyak bukti yang bertebaran di TKP. Ini menunjukkan bahwa si pembunuh dan komplotannya tidak sepenuhnya memikirkan pembunuhan tersebut hingga meninggalkan bukti-bukti yang memberatkan.
It's unclear what Aaron's motives were or whether he had even been the gunman. But from crime scene pictures and police reports, it's clear Odin Lloyd was shot 6 times. The murder weapon was never found, but the crime scene was littered with evidence pointing to Aaron's involvement. Keys to a rental car in Aaron's name were discovered in Odin Lloyd's pocket. There were footwear impressions matching Aaron's size 13 sneakers, and there was a marijuana cigarette with his DNA on it, close to Odin's body.
Petugas investigasi tidak percaya atas kebodohan dan kejahatan ini karena Odin masih memiliki dompet dan ponselnya. Di TKP, polisi juga menemukan kunci mobil yang disewa Aaron Hernandez. Terlebih, TKP itu kurang dari 1 mil jauhnya dari rumah Aaron Hernandez. Odin Lloyd tewas akibat 6 peluru yang mengenai tubuhnya. Namun di TKP, polisi menemukan hanya 5 selongsong peluru. Lalu manajer sebuah perusahaan penyewaan mobil mengatakan pada polisi bahwa saat membersihkan mobilnya, mereka menemukan selongsong peluru yang kemudian mereka buang ke tong sampah. Di mana menurut polisi, selongsong peluru tersebut berasal dari senjata yang sama yang ditembakkan di TKP. Serta jenis ban mobil yang disewa sangat cocok dengan jejak ban di TKP di sebelah jasad korban. Sembilan hari setelah pembunuhan Odin Lloyd, Aaron Hernandez ditangkap di rumahnya dan didakwa dengan pembunuhan tingkat pertama. 90 menit setelah penangkapannya, Aaron dikeluarkan dari New England Patriots.
I and other members of the organization were shocked and disappointed.
Aaron was undoubtedly a supreme talent, but his anger was likely to have been cause for concern.
Aaron menjadi pusat sorotan media, dan semua media meneliti setiap aspek kehidupannya yang diberitakan di televisi, surat kabar, dan majalah.
Esquire magazine described Aaron Hernandez as the most infamous accused killer in Massachusetts.
Semua program olahraga, situs web, semuanya memperdebatkan apakah Aaron bersalah atau tidak, dan menjadi percakapan semua orang di media sosial. Tetapi para penggemar Aaron tetap setia mendukung Aaron Hernandez, hingga ramai muncul tagar bebaskan Aaron di Twitter. Berita tentang Aaron Hernandez menjadi berita utama di berbagai media selama berbulan-bulan.
Aaron Hernandez's career was just getting started. He was 23 years old when he was arrested and charged with murder, and he had just signed a big $40 million contract extension.
At that time, he was just living a reckless life. I think that he didn't understand and count his blessings, because he thought that he became invincible at some point, where regardless of what he was going to do, as long as he performed well on Sunday.
Author James Patterson wrote a book about Aaron Hernandez, and he described him as an all-pro football player who operated like a serial killer.
Aaron mengaku tidak bersalah atas tuduhan tersebut dan mengajukan pembebasan dengan jaminan. Tetapi upayanya untuk mendapatkan jaminan ditolak. Kini ia mendekam dalam jeruji besi.
He's just telling me that, everything was all right, not to worry about nothing, that he was going to be out, he's going to be playing football again.
4 tahun sejak Aaron terakhir kali bermain sepak bola profesional, kegiatan olahraga yang disukainya berubah drastis. Ketika ia dipenjara, ia hanya diberikan waktu 1 jam sehari untuk melakukan kebugaran fisik. Hingga kesehariannya, ia habiskan lebih banyak duduk. Dan itu berdampak pada kesehatan fisiknya, melalui penambahan berat badan dan kondisi mentalnya. Aaron yang sudah terbiasa tinggal di rumahnya seluas 2.300 meter, kini ia harus tinggal di sebuah ruangan kecil. Dan itu adalah transisi besar bagi siapapun. Saat polisi mencari petunjuk di rumah sepupu Aaron dalam kasus pembunuhan Odin Lloyd, kemudian polisi menemukan sebuah mobil yang mencuri perhatian mereka. Itu adalah mobil Toyota 4Runner yang berada di dalam sebuah garasi. Mobil tersebut adalah milik perusahaan leasing yang meminjamkannya pada tim New England Patriots untuk imbalan atas pekerjaan promosi selama 1 tahun. Di saat yang sama, polisi tengah mencari mobil SUV yang terkait dengan pembunuhan ganda yang belum terpecahkan. Aaron berada di penjara Suze Baranowski. Adalah penjara dengan keamanan maksimum di Lancaster, Massachusetts, yang dipenuhi oleh para penjahat paling kejam di Massachusetts. Karena itu, ia mempersenjatai dirinya dengan sebuah logam berukuran 6 inci yang diasah menjadi senjata darurat yang ia sembunyikan di selnya agar ia merasa aman, karena di penjara ini kerap melibatkan kekerasan. Itu merupakan tanda kekhawatirannya akan diserang ketika ia merasa terancam. Dan dalam waktu 1 tahun di penjara ini, ia sudah 3 kali terlibat dalam perkelahian dengan narapidana lain. Untuk sobat semua, sebelum lanjut ada baiknya untuk mengklik terlebih dahulu tombol like, share, dan subscribe, serta tombol notifikasinya, agar tak ketinggalan update kisah nyata tak biasa dari K-Channel selanjutnya. Saat sidang dimulai, gedung pengadilan tampak hiruk-pikuk para awak media yang meliput jalannya persidangan yang melibatkan bintang atlet muda berbakat yang menjadi buah bibir semua orang di seluruh negeri.
We hadn't seen such a high-profile murder case involving an athlete probably since O.J. Simpson.
Everybody wanted to be in that courtroom, and the court personnel had their hands full with us, and also members of the public who just wanted to come in and get a look at Aaron Hernandez and just watch this whole thing unfold.
Totally innocuous message. It doesn't suggest, it doesn't indicate fear, it doesn't indicate a cry for help.
Does the text imply, at least, that Aaron Hernandez was going to do something to Odin Lloyd?
Dalam sidang, tunangan Aaron, Shania Jenkins, turut hadir sebagai saksi. Bahkan pemilik New England Patriots juga dipanggil untuk bersaksi.
I don't really remember the size. She was very careful, and she just kept saying that she didn't know, and it was very clear to us that she was not going to betray Aaron Hernandez. In that testimony, she was going to do everything she could to save herself and at the same time save him. She was not going to play a role in his undoing.
He said he was not involved, that he was innocent.
Menurut jaksa penuntut, paranoia Aaron memiliki konsekuensi total. Seperti yang diduga bahwa motif Aaron mengakhiri hidup Odin karena ia khawatir Odin akan memberitahukan tentang pembunuhan ganda tersebut setelah tanpa sengaja Aaron menceritakannya, hingga Odin menjadi korban. Dan ini dapat dikaitkan dengan efek berbahaya bagi Aaron sebagai pengguna PCP atau angel dust yang akan mengalami kilas balik dan rentan terhadap kecemasan dan depresi.
I want to tell him that he has somebody on his side that's praying for him.
Prosecutors are saying that he orchestrated the execution of someone.
You're not going to make me believe that he's a monster because you use those type of words.
Setelah 10 minggu kesaksian dari 130 saksi dan ratusan bukti yang dipertimbangkan juri selama 35 jam, akhirnya juri memutuskan nasib Aaron Hernandez.
Do you think there's a chance that Aaron Hernandez may be found not guilty?
That's my biggest fear.
For the shooting of his friend, Odin Lloyd, Aaron Hernandez was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
How do you plead?
Not guilty. Charging of Carlos Ortiz and Ernest Wallace for murder really signals that this will be what's called a joint venture murder prosecution, where anyone who actively participates in the murder can be held guilty for the murder.
2 tahun kemudian, saat Aaron menjalankan hukuman seumur hidup atas kematian Odin Lloyd, kini ia diadili atas tewasnya Daniel Debreu dan Safiro Ferrado.
Daniel Debreu, while dancing nearby, accidentally bumped into the defendant, causing the defendant's drink to partially spill. The defendant leaned out of the driver's side window of the SUV with a loaded revolver in his hand extended out. The defendant immediately fired at least 5 rounds from a .38 caliber revolver into the victim's car.
Saat ini, jaksa penuntut memiliki saksi kunci, yakni Alexander Bradley. Alexander mengatakan bahwa pada malam itu, Aaron tampak begitu paranoid. Aaron berpikir bahwa semua orang mengejarnya. Polisi mengikutinya dengan helikopter dan melacak iPhone teman-temannya.
And then he started firing rounds into their vehicle.
Juries like motive. Juries want to know why someone did something, especially when they've done something that's alleged to have been as heinous.
Kali ini, Aaron menyewa pengacara terkenal, Jose Baez. Hari ini, Aaron kembali berada di pengadilan untuk mendengarkan keputusan juri atas kasus kematian ganda Daniel Debreu dan Safiro Ferrado.
Find the defendant not guilty, guilty of murder in the first degree, or guilty of murder in the second degree.
Not guilty.
The second degree.
Not guilty. And so when that verdict was read, all that tension just was released, and the only thing left to do was cry. And he cried with relief.
There was a lot of anger around Boston. A lot of anger because it was pretty obvious that Aaron Hernandez was involved.
Pengacara Aaron telah berhasil mendiskreditkan Alexander Bradley sebagai saksi. Dan Aaron begitu gembira atas hasil keputusan dalam sidang tersebut bahwa ia tidak bersalah. Ia kembali bersemangat dan bertekad bahwa ia akan kembali ke dunia sepak bola yang dicintainya dan akan segera mengajukan banding atas keputusan hukuman seumur hidupnya dalam kasus kematian Odin Lloyd. Pengacara Aaron yakin bahwa Aaron akan segera dibebaskan.
We're confident that Aaron is going to be exonerated and that when witnesses have to testify, that a jury of Aaron's peers will find that he's not guilty and in fact had no part in the of Odin Lloyd.
Pada malam hari, pukul 7:48 di penjara Zuze Berenovsky, 7 jam sebelum kematiannya, Aaron menelpon tunangannya Sienna. Seperti yang biasa ia lakukan setiap malam, tidak ada tanda-tanda yang menunjukkan niatnya untuk mengakhiri hidupnya. Begitupun menurut Sienna, yang mengatakan bahwa pada malam itu, percakapan mereka di telepon merupakan hal yang normal. Bahkan Aaron memberitahunya tentang masa depan Aaron dengan begitu optimis. Sama halnya yang dikatakan narapidana lain, bahwa Aaron tidak menunjukkan tanda-tanda masalah atau depresi. Aaron terlihat begitu normal. Dan beberapa jam kemudian, pada pukul 1 dini hari, tanggal 19 April 2017, petugas penjara melakukan pengecekan rutin. Dan itu terakhir kalinya melihat Aaron masih hidup. Namun ketika petugas penjara kembali melakukan pemeriksaan terakhir pada pukul 3:03 dini hari, Aaron telah dalam keadaan tidak bernyawa. Lalu para petugas berdatangan untuk membuka pintu selnya, yang rupanya Aaron telah menjepit pintu tersebut hingga sulit untuk membukanya. Saat para petugas berhasil membuka pintunya, mereka melihat lantai dipenuhi dengan cairan sampo. Menurut laporan, Aaron tampaknya telah menimbun sampo dan sabun untuk disebarkan di lantai selnya, yang ditafsirkan oleh otoritas penjara sebagai upaya menghalangi upaya penyelamatan. Dan pada pukul 4 pagi, Aaron dinyatakan meninggal.
Breaking news this morning, convicted murderer Aaron Hernandez found dead in his prison cell.
Just hours before his former teammates celebrate their Super Bowl victory at the White House.
The question is, what had triggered such a drastic change? He writes John 3:16 on his forehead with ink. He right middle finger. He lets blood drip onto his Bible next to that verse, and using his own blood, scrawls John 3:16 on his cell wall. Prison report, one of Aaron's fellow inmates said he'd been speaking more frequently with a religious tone, and had told other prison inmates that, quote, when you die, your soul gets reincarnated. But I can see no evidence of any long-standing religious beliefs that might be driving his actions.
Dalam sel penjaranya, para petugas menemukan Alkitab yang terbuka dan 3 pucuk surat yang diletakkan berjejer. 3 surat tersebut untuk putrinya dan surat kedua untuk tunangannya. Dalam isi suratnya yang ia tuliskan pada tunangannya, Sienna, ia mengatakan, "Kamu selalu menjadi belahan jiwaku, dan aku ingin kamu menjalani hidup. Aku akan selalu bersamamu. Ini adalah rencana yang maha kuasa, bukan rencanaku. Aku mencintaimu. Kamu kaya." Dan surat ketiga diduga ditulis untuk seorang pria yang menurut laporan adalah pacar Aaron di penjara. Tetapi isi surat itu tidak pernah dipublikasikan. Terdapat rumor bahwa Aaron adalah seorang gay dan Odin Lloyd akan memberitahu pada dunia tentang hal itu yang tidak pernah terbukti.
There are rumors that Hernandez was gay and Odin Lloyd was going to tell the world about it. That has never been proven. That has never come out. We're still waiting to see if that third mysterious letter ever gets released.
Aaron Hernandez had, I believe, a very long-lasting and intimate relationship with a high school classmate, a male. He really loved the guy. When he was in jail, who goes to the jail the most? The longtime high school friend is there more than the fiancé.
Beberapa laporan juga menyatakan bahwa Kyle Kennedy, seorang terpidana perampok, adalah kekasih Aaron di penjara. Tersiar kabar di dalam penjara bahwa 2 hari sebelum kematiannya, beberapa narapidana sedang mendengarkan siaran radio yang memberitakan bahwa Aaron Hernandez adalah seorang gay. Dan kemungkinan ada ketakutan Aaron terkait perilakunya yang menyimpang dipublikasikan. Tetapi sebagian besar tidak setuju dengan teori bahwa Aaron adalah seorang gay. Dan pengacara Aaron dan tunangannya menyatakan bahwa cerita tersebut adalah bohong.
I certainly didn't see any indicators when he was here. Times I spoke to him, there was nothing really that ever sort of raised a red flag or even a question or thought.
Aaron was the type of dude, if he loved you, he loved you. You know what I'm saying? Took you in like a family member. That's it. I went out with the guy. I know he's not gay.
So if the reason for killing himself wasn't fear about his own sexuality, what was it? According to prison reports, Aaron had appeared excited about his acquittal on a double homicide charge 5 days before his death, and gave no indication to friends or the authorities of a downturn in his mood.
Prison officials believed that Aaron Hernandez was using drugs while he was in prison.
Aaron Hernandez had not consumed any drugs leading up to his death. According to a prison investigation, Aaron believed a prisoner's convictions are erased if he dies while an appeal is pending.
Defense attorney made no bones about pointing out Cheyenne Jenkins, his fiancée, could go after the money that the NFL owed him if he was no longer a convicted murderer.
It's possible that Aaron had weighed up the risk of a failed appeal and decided there was only one way out. When officers discovered Aaron had himself, they found a suicide note to his fiancée. Within it were the words, "You're rich."
He realizes that I'm 27 years old. I have no possibility of parole. I'm going to live in a tiny cell. And all I'll have to do is think about what I lost. I think that must have scared him so much.
Aaron dimakamkan di pemakaman pribadi di kampung halamannya, Bristol, Connecticut.
A lot of people in Boston have zero sympathy for Aaron Hernandez. This is a guy who had everything in front of him, a superstar career, $40 million contract. He gets to play for the New England Patriots and win Super Bowls and catch passes from Tom Brady, and he threw it all away over what?
Sebelum jenazahnya dikremasi, keluarganya menyerahkan otaknya ke spesialis CTE Center, Universitas Boston, yang sebelumnya telah memeriksa 111 otak dari mantan pemain NFL. 110 otak yang diperiksa memiliki CTE.
Aaron Hernandez had severe brain damage.
CTE is very real, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which leads to brain injury over time. It's a repetitive injury as opposed to the single type of injury one might find in an automobile accident.
Dan mengenai Aaron, para ahli patologi menemukan bahwa Aaron memiliki penumpukan protein yang signifikan di jaringan otak lobus frontal, area otak yang memoderasi penilaian perilaku dan pengambilan keputusan. Aaron juga memiliki penyakit vertikal ruang yang menyimpan cairan tulang belakang di otak yang melebar, yang berarti otaknya telah menyusut dan saraf terkait dengan memori telah berhenti berkembang. Dan menurut para peneliti, Aaron memiliki kasus CTE terburuk yang pernah dialami seseorang di usianya.
According to the researchers, Aaron had the worst case of CTE ever seen in someone of his age.
This would be the first case we've ever seen of that kind of damage in such a young individual.
It's likely that the damage had started over a decade before, when he entered the world of college football. He may have been genetically predisposed to having CTE in the first place, and if he did develop it playing football, it's more likely it occurred as an accumulation of small hits and not concussions.
Ahli patologi mengatakan bahwa Aaron gagal dalam mengatasi rasa dukanya yang berkepanjangan atas kehilangan ayahnya. Selain trauma yang terus-menerus karena rasa duka kehilangan ayahnya, kondisi Aaron diperparah dengan banyaknya pukulan di kepala dalam lapangan sepak bola dan ditambah dengan penyalahgunaan berbagai macam barang-barang haram yang memicu kekerasan dan ketidakpeduliannya terhadap konsekuensi.
You can see toxicology tests were carried out for might explain his behavior. K2. K2, also known as spice, is a type of synthetic cannabinoid with properties similar to marijuana but designed to produce much greater highs.
Carlos Ortiz told police angel dust.
PCP can have dangerous side effects, including making users feel anxious and aggressive. It can convince them they are indestructible. The effects of the drug are amplified if used with other drugs mixed with alcohol. It's possible that Open Lloyd's murder was the result of PCP-fueled paranoia. The question is, could this also be connected to Aaron's suicide? Toxicology tests found no evidence in Aaron's system when he died, but Aaron's abuse of the drug may have had lasting effects. If Aaron felt constantly on edge, then the release of these chemicals was ongoing and pervasive. This could have caused him some serious psychological distress. Could this have led to depression and suicidal thoughts?
Ia mengidap CTE terburuk sepanjang sejarah, dan CTE-nya itu memicu perilaku yang tidak dapat diprediksi, yang akhirnya mencapai puncaknya dengan mengakhiri hidupnya sendiri.
And I'd never seen anything that looked like it. It was very obvious that there were physical signs of trauma on his head. So what led Aaron Hernandez down this path? Was it the wrong friends? Was it the CTE? It was probably a combination of those, but we'll never know for sure.
CTE was likely a contributing factor fueling his violence, but his records reveal much more that could have influenced his murderous rage, including the decision to take his own life.
Deep down inside, he was hurting a great deal. He didn't want to cross that threshold and deal with that pain.
It's an unbelievable tale of horror and sadness.
I can see no evidence that Aaron ever received treatment or counseling to help him deal with the emotional fallout and his anger. Added to the psychological damage to his brain, Aaron had advanced stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. possibly as a result of constant trauma from hits to the head on the football field, which was likely made worse by Aaron indulged in heavy marijuana use combined with PCP, which will have clouded his judgment, fueled his and his disregard of its consequences. Aaron's CTE is thought to be one of the worst cases in history for someone of Aaron's age, and I believe it is the key to his demise. His CTE undoubtedly triggered his descent into the unpredictable and violent behavior that ultimately culminated in him taking his own life.
Aaron Hernandez was a heinous person, and no one knew it. And that to me is the most shocking revelation of this whole story.
I truly believe that the person that I knew growing up is Aaron Hernandez, and the person that became him had a lot to do with the influences around him. Of course, you can't blame everything on other people, but man, it's sad. It's just sad. It hurt us. It just hurt us as people because he was our son. You know, he was the most important thing that came out of that area. If you say Bristol, you knew you saw Aaron Hernandez.
No one saw this coming. So as a journalist, it's to reinforce an important lesson that you just never know who these guys are. And so I'm very wary now of writing stories about guys who have redeemed themselves and have turned over a new leaf. I'm a changed man now. Well, you know, you're saying all the right things, but Aaron Hernandez said all the right things too.
I feel sorry for all 3 murder victims who did not deserve to die like that. And you feel sorry for his brother DJ, who fell apart in the wake of these cases. I feel bad for his daughter, but I feel worse for Odin Lloyd's mom, who did absolutely nothing wrong and who has to live with the loss of her son day in and day out.
Hey, handsome. Mommy's here to see you again. I love you. I miss you so much, sweetie.
We love you, Odin!
Bagaimana menurut Sobat K semua? Silahkan berbagi pendapatnya secara bijak ke dalam kolom komentar. Dan berikut sejumlah referensi dalam dokumenter kisah nyata K Channel kali ini. Serta nantikan kisah nyata lainnya yang berbeda selanjutnya. Hanya di K Channel, membuka jendela dunia.